live. Hey, how you guys doing? It's Dave Duford here. Hope you guys have had a fantastic week. I am muting my speaker here so it doesn't perturb us over the training here. So welcome. Glad you decided to make it today. Getting myself set up here. Hold on one last second here. Awesome. I think we're good to go. Good enough, I suppose. So welcome. Yeah, so my name is Dave Duford. If this is your first time on the live stream show, I want to give you a big old fat welcome. Thanks for coming. I do a live stream on some sort of final expense topic every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and I cover pretty much everything you could imagine from the entirety of the sales process regarding final expense insurance sales, all the way through to leads topics, appointment setting topics, everything imaginable. And I'm on every Monday at 12 o'clock live with all sorts of different kinds of topics and information and training. And in today's training, I will be talking about door knocking tips and strategies that do actually work. So again, like I talked about in my promo just a short while ago, if you're looking for a way to get better at door knocking, if you're brand new or moderately experienced and always looking for tips to help you get better results out of your door knocking, this training is going to be specifically for you, and I think you're going to enjoy it because it's a little different than what I normally do. Usually I just put the camera on and rattle off for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, if I'm lucky, if not, if I don't go longer. Or just continue on like that. But this time I'm actually took some pictures of real sales calls that I've made and the houses I've made them in. And what I'm going to do is, these are the outside versions. I've found them on Google, and sales calls I've done over the year. What I'm going to do is actually implement my experience running those appointments into the training that you're going to see today. So hopefully it'll provide an actual experiential review of why you should do what you do, or why you should implement the training that I do. And so before I get started into the training, first of all, if you haven't heard already, I am now rolling out all new final expense Facebook leads. If you're interested in trying these type of leads out, which I believe are akin to direct mail leads, if you go down here into the details info section of the video, you should see a link there with the purchase page as well as a video overview of how they work. I've had some guys get started with them. They like them so far. I like them too. I've worked them to a great extent, so know that they work very well. So if you've ever wanted to try internet-based leads, see how they work compared to what you're used to, I definitely encourage you to give it a try. So beyond that, let's get down to business. So the first thing I want to cover here is really the big picture aspect of door knocking. I think door knocking, first of all, is the easiest and most effective way to prospect your final expense leads. And again, like I said in the promotional video, it doesn't matter if you've got new leads, you've got aged leads, you've got telemarketing leads. It doesn't really matter what the type of lead you work. They're going to be the most effective if you take those leads and show up to see them. And the reason is very simple. Everybody is a bulldog when it comes to dealing with telemarketers over the phone. Everybody turns into a giant jerk. It's easier to be a jerk over the phone, right? You don't have to look the person in the face. You don't have to ever deal with them or have to be civil. It's the phone disconnects the basics and fundamentals of human interaction, which is a face-to-face interaction. So people can become much more rude and don't listen as well, and therefore, in many cases, it takes a level of skill separate and completely different from door knocking to master appointment setting. Many large final expense organizations, and I somewhat teach the same method as well. I think appointment setting is good, and you should do it. But especially if you start off with 20, 25 leads a week, door knocking is going to yield you the best return on your investment. And again, when I say door knocking, I'm talking about working your leads and door knocking your leads, not cold door knocking, just to make sure that difference is made. But the main thing is that because you see people face to face, those who are normally jerks tend to be much more civil. And you find that you can get your point across a lot better when you're face to face than you can over the phone, because your attention with them is complete in many circumstances, as opposed to being over the phone where they could be talking to you and watching TV at the same time, meaning they're not really listening to you whatsoever. So with door knocking, the cool thing about door knocking, again, why it's so effective, is it doesn't take a lot of skill to become very good at it. In fact, I think door knocking is what I would call 80% tactical and 20% strategic. So let me explain what I mean. When it comes to the difference between tactics and strategies, tactics are things that we employ to get the job done, whereas strategies are a big picture opinion, belief system of how things should be done. The tactics is the doing, whereas the strategizing is the theory behind it. And why I think door knocking is 80% tactical, meaning it's mostly, bottom line, a numbers game. Most of these people are, as long as you're not a doofus in front of people, and you can make eye contact with them, you can speak up and smile at them, you're going to connect with a lot of people just being that way, because people are naturally inclined and attracted towards people with magnetic personalities who are happy, who are decent, who come off as low pressure. And you can exude all this stuff in a face-to-face confrontation, face-to-face call, door knocking, much, much better than you can over the phone. So the big thing I want you to understand is that door knocking is all about the numbers. It's all about getting out there and seeing people. Some are going to be interested and some are not. And the best way to figure that out is just to go see them and do it. Now the 20%, while it is a minority, makes up for a lot of some of the outcomes you're going to get. And that is where your skill and your forethought in how you door knock and the things that you do to yield the best results out of them really come in handy. And so that's really what we're going to talk about today, is more of the strategic aspects of what happens when you deal with certain scenarios and what happens when you get in certain situations where, how do you deal with nobody answering the door? What if you see a no solicitor sign? How do you handle circumstances like that? Or that kind of thing. Because again, little changes to your game can make a big difference in your net yield results. And so let's go ahead and get started on some of those contacts. Before I do, I want to check my comment box and see that I got a guy named Ugana Onukwa. Sorry if I messed your name up, man. But are 30 direct mail or Facebook leads good to start out with in a final expense business? Absolutely. As much as I like Facebook leads, I will say that the best thing you could do is start off with direct mail, fresh leads, if you are able to. Direct mail is king in this business. It's where I want all my agents to be once I get them started. If they cannot afford direct mail, that's when we look at some alternative methods like Facebook marketing, using avatar leads, or even something like seminar marketing, which can come in handy to generate leads affordably and quickly. So bottom line, Mr. O, I'll call you, go with the 30 direct mail leads if you can. You're going to get, in my opinion, a much better edge than you would in any other circumstance, and that's what you want to get started with in this business. You don't want to start cheap and then decide to go with the better quality. You want to start with the best quality, even if it is the most expensive or the most risky, at least perceptively speaking, because you want to give yourself the best chance getting started. And if you got any other questions for the rest of you as you're watching this, feel free to post them. I always like to answer questions. Anybody that comes in and comments is more than welcome to. It doesn't have to deal with anything we're talking about today. It can be anything else in particular. Carrier questions, training questions, sales training questions, appointment setting, anything at all like that, I'm happy to help you with. So let me direct you to my desktop here. I am going to show you the first little bit of something you may, especially you guys with experience, have experienced. See if you guys recognize this. There it is. The no soliciting sign. Have you guys ever seen this sign? I've seen this all over the place. No soliciting. We're too broke to buy anything. We know who we are voting for. We found Jesus. Seriously, unless you are giving away beer, please go away. Now that's one of the funnier ones that I've seen relative to some of the ones that are out there. I've had soliciting signs with guns on them. I've had the straight up no solicitation signs elsewhere, or just plain old no trespassing signs. So a lot of you guys may be wondering, how do you deal with a situation where you're going to see a no soliciting sign? Well, here's what I want to tell you. Your role in working these leads is much different than the guy who is cold calling these homes. And I want you to really take this to heart, okay? These people who send these cards back are not stupid. They may not be super intelligent or academically intelligent, but they're definitely street smart. And I promise you, you are not the first game in town when it comes to these direct mail leads. They have sent back probably a handful of these over the years. I can quantify for you that I have seen people send back 5 or 6 cards over the course of a couple of years. And that's just me. What about all the other agents out there? These people send off a lot of cards. So they know what's happening when they send these cards off, okay? They know they're going to have somebody call on them to set up an appointment. So here's my point. This is very, very important you understand this. You are not soliciting them, okay? When they send the card back, they're soliciting you. Now think about that. You didn't ask for them to send the card back. They decided to send the card back because they wanted the information, and I promise you, they know what it's about. They know it's about life insurance, despite what they think they say or what you think they're saying. They know that when they send the card back, somebody's going to come out and talk to them, okay? So these solicitation signs, if again, we'll take you back to the screen here. These solicitation signs really and truly are really meant towards the evangelists, like Mormons that come around, people that don't want to be bothered with religion, people that want to sell magazines is the first one that comes to my mind, and things like that, where they're just agitated to buy crap they don't need, and they're unrequested calls, and that's critical here. You are not unrequested. When you see these no solicitation signs, you are not doing your job if you just walk and turn back to your car and go home. They sent the damn card in. Okay, they probably need coverage. And those signs, if you think about it, are scaring away your competition. If you just have the balls to walk up and knock on the door, you're probably going to get the deal, because most other guys are going to think, oh, no soliciting, oh, I need to turn around and go home. You don't need to do that. These people are soliciting you, and you need to have that mindset when you go to the door. And what's the worst that's going to happen? If they answer the door and they're going to be jerk-offs, you're going to say, look, you sent this card in, Mr. Jones. I understand that you don't want anybody bothering you, but this is why I showed up. You sent me back the card. I'm just doing my job. If this is something you're interested in, all I need is 5 minutes to show you. If it's not, no big deal. I'm not here to give you a hard time. If you step up and speak to them directly in that manner, again, you're going to speak in a way they're not used to, and many of these people will actually bring you in, and they will buy from you. I have heard, and I can't qualify if this is true or not, but I have heard that a lot of the times the no solicitor signs are actually suckers. And they're the kind of people that buy from everybody that shows up. And someone finally decides to put a sign up to prevent it because they know themselves enough that they like to buy stuff. So I've heard that from people. But nevertheless, I do think that the no solicitation signs do not apply to you, and you have to keep this mentality, because you didn't ask to show up. They asked you because they sent the card in, or requested the information over the phone. It does not matter. They requested the information, and that's what's critical. All right, so let's go back to, hey, Shane, I'm reading your comment here. Is it true that agents have an obligation to contact the people to send back the card? I have heard there are legal liabilities. Hey, Shane, I don't know really how to answer that. You are welcome to expound on that, and I'll do the best I can. Obligation legally, is it an obligation that's a legal obligation, or is there legal liabilities if you show up? If you can kind of clarify that better for me, I'll be able to better answer it. So feel free to type it in there, and if I don't catch it here by this next part, then I'll answer it after I get done. Okay, so I want to show you guys a couple of signs here, a couple of sites here. I think this is pretty cool. Check this out here. You guys probably see this now. Okay, cool. So what you're seeing here is a home, and this is a screenshot off of Google Maps, in a $1 million neighborhood in Chattanooga, right by the most exclusive golf course in 100 miles from here. Senator Bob Corker lives in this neighborhood. As you may or may not know who he is, he's a big shot. And there's a lot of other big shots that live here too. So I got a lead here, and it's in the same neighborhood. It's this house right here. You can see the Escalade Cadillac right kind of center left. There's another car there. That's a BMW. And I got here, and I remember thinking, why the hell would I even decide to even knock on this door? This is somebody who is off their rocker or wasting my time. Why would they need life insurance? Why would they send this card back? And I admittedly turned the car around. And I stopped myself. I said, you know what? I'm being an idiot. I need to turn around and actually stop being a wuss and go see these people and see if there's any interest whatsoever. You know, I at least owe it to myself to do that. I bought the damn lead. What's the worst that can happen? They just tell me no, and I just rack it up to being another wasted call. But no big deal. It's part of the game. So I turned around and went back. So the people are actually walking out to this Escalade here, which you can see here, and they were getting in the car. The lady told me in a smoker's COPD voice, I told you to call me before you showed up. I got to go to the doctor, blah, 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 blah. Call me later, and I'll set something up tomorrow. I said, okay, that's fine. So we set up an appointment again, but I didn't call her the same day, and she got mad at me again. But she said, yeah, you can come on in. We'll sit down and talk. So long story short, again, I show this to make a point about why you've got to door knock every lead, even if it's something that looks like there ain't no deals here. This very home here, inside this $1 million golf course home, I wrote 6 or 7 applications on one person. Each of them were about $25,000 average each. I probably walked out of that house over the course of 2 or 3 calls with about $10,000 to $15,000. It's been a while. Probably about $10,000 to $15,000 in commission. I'm just going to give you a big long range. It's probably closer to 15 to 10 off of one call. Okay, and I was almost to the point, just close, to not getting that. Okay, think about that. This house I could have walked away from because my ego was going to get hurt. How stupid is that? And I know it's stupid, and I know the feeling of walking past these homes because of the prejudgments that we make. It was just stupid. And if I didn't do my job, I wouldn't have got a huge payday, nor would I have actually helped this person out to the great extent that I could, that no other agents could. So I make this point very clear. You see a $1 million house like this and it send a lead in, go see the people. Don't be worried that it ain't, a trailer like what we're used to seeing. It doesn't matter where the leads came from. They asked for information. You must see them. You cannot delay. You cannot make up reasons in your own mind as to why it would be a bad idea to call. You know nothing until you knock, knock, knock on that door and figure out if anything is there. Okay? So do not let the type of house discourage you. Even if you've run across houses like this in the past and they all told you no, that one house can make everything so much better because you had the guts to go see them. Okay? So that's the main takeaway here. Remember, the strategy here, we know tactically we got to door knock. We got to see everybody and everything. But the strategy here, the moral of the story, is the mentality. You know nothing until you knock on the door. And every lead is an opportunity of many types of kinds of opportunities. And you must simply see them to figure out if that opportunity is viable or not, bottom line. Okay, cool. So let's move on here. Shane, legal obligation. Okay. Okay, so let me read through this again, Shane, so I'm better understanding here. Is it true that agents have an obligation to contact, a legal obligation to contact the people that send back the card? I've heard there are legal liabilities. I don't know. I don't think so. I wouldn't know. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not anybody in any position to say whether or not that is the case or not. I mean, my understanding is when they send the card back, it's just a solicitation for more information. I don't think they're signing off any sort of weird promise to deliver this to you. There's no expressed obligations via the card that are implicit or explicit. So, I mean, I would rather say that this is a moral obligation to you. If you look at it from that standpoint, you have the power to help these people out in many ways that others can't. And you have information, especially if you're a broker or really any kind of agent, that you can walk in and help people out in such a way to better their lives and improve their peace of mind. So as far as legal obligations, I can't help you in that department. I just don't know. I've never heard anything like that. I've been doing this for 6 years. I'm not legally bound by any contracts, so I don't know exactly if there is or isn't. Again, be interesting to hear where you heard that, or if you could expound on that, because that's kind of curious to see what the mentality is of that claim, if you will. But as far as I'm concerned, our moral obligation, or our obligation, should be helping people out, and it's more of a moral argument than it is anything else. Okay, so a couple other pictures here. Let me show you. Hold on one second. Give me 1 second and get the picture set up here. Let's show you this one. All right. So, okay, here it is. Here's another house of a call I made, and you'll notice that when you drive into the driveway and you knock on this door, sometimes, in many cases, for you guys, what happens if they don't answer? Do you just give up? No. A lot of the times, people do not answer from the front door. Many times, people go back here, if you can see it on the side. I believe there's a door here, or maybe one back here a little bit. Yeah, there's a door right there. You need to go and make sure you check the front door as well as the side door. And make sure that you knock the door as well as ring the doorbell. In fact, the old saying is that strangers ring the doorbell, friends door knock. So make sure you're door knocking. And when I door knock, I door knock, I don't beat the door down, but I door knock very hard. It's not a wimpy like that, it's and I door knock about 7 to 11 times, and that's intentional because I want the door knock to get their attention right away. But also, I think that how you knock expresses your enthusiasm or energy level. I've had one person tell me, you sound like the cops when you're door knocking. I thought, good, because if I sound like the law, then people are going to jump to their feet and get to the door as quickly as possible to answer. And that's what we want, because more people will answer if they think it's the cops than the other way around. So make sure that you're door knocking hard. In fact, don't even ring the doorbell at all. Always start and end with a door knock, and make sure if you don't get an answer, go to the side door and try to see if they're going to answer from that regard as well. Again, some people may not hear it in the front. They may be closer located to the back, and you'll be better off if you do that. Now, what happens if they don't door knock at all? What do you do to maximize the kind of results that you could get? So this is right here. You guys have probably, if you've watched enough of my videos, you've seen these. This is a sticky note. And this sticky note is something you can just basically stick on the door, put the person's name, the date you came, final attempt, if that's your last time you're going to be there, and then your information. And the strategy here is that once they get home and call this, and they call the number, hopefully your cell phone, you know that they're home, and you can just swing back around and then go see these people. Again, this is best used if you're primarily door knocking, because when they call, you know they're home by default, and you're going to get a pretty good shot of getting in the door, or at least just seeing and dispositioning the lead as somebody who's not interested or they are interested. So along the lines of what Shane's comment was earlier on, as far as legal obligations, I have heard some states there is an issue with this particular type of solicitation, putting these sticky notes on the door. Make sure you check your Department of Insurance if that's the case. There was one case I heard of a guy in Utah that actually got fined by the DOI from one of these sticky notes. Again, so I'm putting this out here to make sure that, I have heard of issues with the sticky notes. I have never run into issues, but I'm maybe in a different state than you. So make sure you check to make sure. Best thing you could do if you don't work directly with me is ask your upline, and they will tell you if it's okay or not. So that's how I would manage that particular bit here. And back to the questions. No new questions here, so we'll keep going. I wanted to show you one other picture here. Again, kind of what happens when you door knock successfully. Oops. All right, there I am. This right here, you're looking at a door knock I did about 4 years ago. And this is why we got a door knock. This lady let me in this blue house here, if you can kind of sort of see it. And in about an hour, I walked out with a $150 application. and she died approximately 6 months into the deal, and the death claim paid. So, door knocking, tried to call her, didn't work. It's one of those situations where the point I'm trying to make is door knocking is very powerful, and you're going to help people out. Some people, these people that need the help, won't answer the phones. And I think with time advancing and people becoming more savvy and a little bit more critical of the calls they get, less and less people are picking the phone up. And so door knocking becomes much more important as a strategy or as a tool, because many of these people will not be sold until someone shows up at the door, because they see these calls coming in, and they just won't pick it up because they don't recognize the number. Even if it calls a dozen times, they know definitely it's a telemarketer, meaning you're trying to sell them something, so they're not going to pick up no matter what. So it's important to, again, door knock those people who don't pick up the phone, because you're going to have a lot of sales in those if you just show up to help them out. Last couple of things here. Body language is the biggest thing that you can do at the door. The big picture with door knocking with body language is make sure you're facing square to the person that you're talking to. Don't kind of be shifted off like this and kind of looking out the corner of your eye. Hey, I'm kind of, look. If you do this with shifty with your eyes, that's not good. You want to be square with them. You want to make direct eye contact with them. You want to smile. Open your eyes up a little brighter, because it's going to make you look like you're interested, you're happy, you're really happy to see them. You don't want to go off the deep end and act all crazy and stuff. But, when you got the card, you want to say, hey, Mr. Jones, I'm here because you sent this card in. See your signature there. The reason I'm here is because you sent this card back over the last week or two requesting information about our final expense programs. I'm the guy that delivers the information. I'm here because I was between appointments. Wanted to see if you had 5 minutes to go over this information you requested. Would that be okay? So that's the script that I use. Very simple. And I'll say about half the time the people are waiting for me to shut up to let me come in, and they're holding the door open for me. And again, it goes back to that whole 80-20% tactical versus strategic. If you just show up and you make a good impression in those first couple of seconds, you're square with the people, you're making eye contact, you're showing them what's on the card, you're smiling, maybe you cut a little joke. And then you make sure you want to shake the hand too if you can. If your hand's outside the door, always be the one reaching for the hand. Again, body language speaks a lot too. And then these people aren't processing all this stuff, in detail like how I'm teaching it. It's just natural and more of an intuitive process that you want to exude trust, excitement, enthusiasm right from the get-go in those first couple of seconds, because that's what gets you in. Not so much what you say, but how you look, how you act. And speaking of how you look, it's good enough to go out in jeans and a polo or jeans and a button-down. You don't need to be in khakis or certainly even a coat to wear. You can, it's helpful, but it's not necessary. So as long as you look a notch or two above them, that's fine. And in this business casual with jeans is just fine. I do not wear ties. I do not wear an overcoat. I think that's overkill. Especially guys down in the South, man. You don't want to be sweating it up all day. You may want to wear shorts. I've heard of guys wearing shorts too. Okay, last little bit here. See if I've got any more pictures to show you of any runs I've done here. I think that pretty much wraps that up. The last thing I'll tell you, that the biggest thing with door knocking is your main goal is, of course, to get in immediately. You want to see them now. You want to see them today. Final expense is a product in which you want to get the deal closed on the spot. These people, you're reaching a particular portion of the population where you want to get to them as quickly as possible and make the deal closed. Okay, so you want to see them today. If you cannot get in at that time immediately, set an appointment for another part of the day. It can be later on that evening. That's fine. That's step 2 if you can't get to your main goal. Step 3 is to see them the following day only. I highly recommend that you do not set appointments any further out than the following day. People will forget it. Things will come up. That's natural and normal. So fight to see them immediately and only accept later the same day or the following day if you cannot, for whatever reason, get in that day. If they can't see you the following day, just tell them you'll drop in, get their information, get their phone number, get some information as to what time of day they're usually there. If they find them, if you're in the neighborhood and you know that they're going to be there, high odds, then you can just drop in, and they've kind of prepared to some extent that you would. Question here, when making calls, do you recommend to leave a voicemail? It's one of those things that I don't think it works or helps, but it doesn't hurt, if that makes sense. Thanks for your question, Kristen. Why is that the case? I don't know. Everybody I talk to says, well, if you just left a voicemail, then I'd call you back. Well, our stuff isn't urgent. Life insurance sales, remember, we're talking to people who are world-class procrastinators, okay? So if you do leave a voicemail, it's very rare that they actually say, oh, wow, I've never met this guy. He's called me a million times, and so I'm going to call him back and set an appointment up with a complete stranger. You need to catch people on the spot. The only real reason I would even consider leaving a voicemail is if you called this person probably a half dozen times, I'm sorry, not a half, 2 dozen times, and they have never, ever yet picked the phone up. If that's the case, it's much better if you show up and just door knock them with the lead in hand and just tell them, hey, look, I really tried to call, I really tried to set an appointment, but nobody answered the phone, and I'm sorry for dropping in on you, but I wanted to see if you got 5 minutes. You can start a call like that and just apologizing, which creates goodwill, because you tell them, hey, look, I really tried to set an appointment with you. Most people prefer that, but my job is to deliver this information. I have to do it. That's why I'm here. Can we talk now and set an appointment for later? So it all works fairly well, and it's good to do. And but the voicemail's one of those things. There's just very little marginal return for the effort. I'm not saying you don't need to do it, but if you do it, it's not going to be something that I think will make much of a difference, if that makes sense. So with that said, guys, we are pretty much done for the live training on door knocking tips that work. To just summarize, door knocking, bottom line, is all about tactical implementation. Just get out there and knock doors. Get your leads, go see them. Do whatever it takes to see as many as you can. And if you just do enough of it, you're going to sell some of these people. 20% of it's strategic, which is what we talked about. You got to have good body language. You have to have a solid script. You got to know how to handle certain objections decently. I'll go over those in just a second. Forgot to cover that. And you got to know when to use the delivery slips. You got to know when to do little things like try to side doors and that kind of thing in order to get in and yield some of these that you may not get if you don't do any of that. And so lastly there, so objections, real quick objections. The most common objections you'll see is that I'm busy. I thought I was going to see something or get something in the mail. So to get something in the mail is very easy. All you say is, look, I understand where you're coming from, Mrs. Jones. That card we sent you is what we sent you in the mail. At this point, all we need is 5 minutes just to show you what we have to offer. If you like it, great. If not, that's fine. You can throw me out. We'll still be friends. How's that sound? Or does that sound fair enough? So what you do there is you do a little bit of you do an affirmation, just like an appointment setting. You do an affirmation, you give them a basic reason. You don't have to go into deep explanation, and then you sell the appointment. Meaning you basically, all the ending of rebuttals go the same. All I need is 5 minutes to show you what you requested. And look, if you're not interested, that's fine. We can just part ways. I will not harass you. I will not make the situation seem awkward for you or anything like that. All I need is 5 minutes. How's that sound? Something like that. You want to sell the appointment, how easy it is. It's quick. You're not going to hard sell them in so many words. And that's kind of the main thing, is you got to sell them on, okay, he's not going to be a big pain in the ass. That's the key thing. And then with the other one, I'm busy right now. So that's fine. All I need is 5 minutes. It's just the same thing. It's just an acknowledgement and then the rebuttal. That's what you want to remember, is you got to, every objection really at the end of the day in most cases is, and what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a procrastination type of relation, meaning, I got this going on or that, and look, they got 5 minutes, and you can do this stuff in 5 minutes if you really want to, so we're not telling them a lie. We can get right down to business, see if there's a deal there. But it's what it is. It's just this kind of resistance towards a sales call and how this stuff, I didn't expect this. You got to overcome it with selling the actual appointment and selling, and not the product, the appointment, to just go over the information, make it quick and easy and not waste their time, and that you're not there to harass them. You're welcome, Kristen. No problem at all. And for the rest of you guys, thank you so much for joining today. excuse me, right at the 35-minute mark. Again, if you're interested in working with my organization, Final Expense Agent Mentor, there's a link down here on the bottom. Feel free to click on that, go to the contact box, and then fill a submission form out. I'll be happy to talk to you more about how our program works. Of course, if you're looking for leads as a final expense agent, I sell avatar leads as well as Facebook final expense leads. You can see more down here. Other than that, I'll see you live next week at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, to talk about another final expense topic. And again, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace.